Good afternoon. On behalf of the entire Stouffer family, Pastor Jean and all the family, we want to welcome you all. Thank you for coming to share your remembrances of Nancy. So thank you for being here. Let us have a quick prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this gathering today, for sharing the memories of Nancy, her life with Jean, her family, her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. We ask that you bless them all, that they may have peace and enjoy their memories and the time that we all spend together. So we thank you for sharing Nancy with us for all of those years, and we pray in the name of Jesus, amen. And I have a quick reading from the Bible, and it's Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the sun, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear, a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. This is all the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing can be taken from it. God does that so people will fear them. The word of the Lord in the house of the Lord. Okay. Would you all join in singing hymn number 378, Amazing Grace, verses 1, 2, and 6.
Am I on? For those of you who know, and those who don't, we did have a foreign student when we lived in Wisconsin. And a couple days ago, he sent a really nice letter. So I just wanted to read it. Some nice sentiments from, God, how old were we when, how old was that? 76. 75. So we've known him, how many years? You do the math. But he's been, I would say, part of the family literally the year he came and the has gone on. As a family, we do Zooms at Christmas. He's been in Vegas, been to my parents many, many times. So he just sent a nice letter, and I just wanted to read it. So it says, "To Mom, time has gone so fast in our lives that we suddenly realize winter may come for us, as it did with Nancy. As long as we keep touch with the loved ones along our life, we can come back to those memories to highlight the meaning of caring for each other like Nancy did so well. Such memories are the best connecting fiber which allow us to be part of a supportive and necessary network with no boundaries and prejudice, but plenty of care and love, the true meaning of a family." Nancy was a real mom to me. She was a sweet, nice, strict, fine woman with an expressive smile. Even after I left the Stauffers' home, where I spent a whole year, she kept looking after me with kind words in her letters, with a permanent aim to see which other and joyful encounter we could, when we could. While I was living with my family in Chicago, she took care of us, visiting, supporting, and cheering us up in our goals. My wife and children were recipients of the same love and care she provided me and made us feel part of the family. We enjoyed their visit to London and Concepcion whenever we could find a time to meet. We feel immensely fortunate to know her and be part of her life so many years. We will keep you deeply in our hearts because you have been a guiding light for anyone around you and for the great love you provided all the time. In closing, let's celebrate Nancy's life as a precious gift to all. Until we meet again, Mom.
Good afternoon. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Greg Goodale, Nancy's son-in-law. So the first time I met Nancy, it was during a trip that Sandra and I made to Las Vegas. And we went out to play golf with Gene and Nancy at Boulder City. And on the first hole, I teed up the ball and immediately hit the ball right out of bounds. I was mortified, and I did that in front of my girlfriend's parents, but I clearly remember how nice and considerate Nancy was to someone she barely knew. Fast forward a couple years, and I really started to get to know Nancy as we were getting ready for Sandra and my wedding in Baraboo. She had many projects for me to do, putting up fans and lights, and so yeah, my time there was well spent before Sandra actually got to Wisconsin, but I was already being treated as part of the family, you know, with all the work and everything that was going on. Fast forward again a few years, and the arrival of our two boys, Ramsey and Grayson. Nancy was the first one to arrive in Alaska to help us with the boys. Nancy was mortified that Sandra and I had the heat set at a brisk 65 degrees in our house. And she immediately cranked the thermostat up to 75 degrees, where it stayed until she left to come back to Arizona. Nancy was my true second mom. She was the only one that would call me Gregory without me having done something wrong beforehand. Nancy was always there for family. She traveled many times to help us out while we were in Alaska. Even during the coldest times, whether sitting at a frigid ice rink watching her grandsons play hockey or rescuing a dog off the frozen lake near our house, she was always there and helping out. Helpful and caring are two words that immediately come to mind when I think of Nancy. She was always the first to call and check in on a return trip or just to see how everyone was doing. I know that the best things that we get from those that move on in front of us is their character. Nancy's giving character will always be with me, and I believe that that was instilled in our boys. That is a gift that can only be repaid through attempting to show the same character to others in our lives. And through that, I know that she won't be forgotten. Thank you, Nancy, for that gift.
Good afternoon, and thanks for coming to honor my mom, Nancy. I'm Wendy Fenton, the eldest of the Stouffer clan, not oldest. As I put my glasses on, things you may or may not know about my mom were that she was quite particular about her preferred brands of food. We'll go with food. She was part of the Pepsi generation, never Coke. She preferred Milky Way over Snickers, no matter how hangry she was. Smucker's raspberry jam was always in her refrigerator, and if it wasn't in yours when she came to visit, it would be on the way out. Lay's curl your tongue with salt, chips, and Fritos were always nearby, and she loved to pair them with her Pepsi. She could always find a Dairy Queen or a Culver's for a hot fudge sundae. We always thought that she missed her calling. She should have been a weather woman. She was aware of everyone's weather in our family, and then she called to talk about it. Our weather, not hers. If the call didn't start with, "What's your weather doing?" it would end that way. In addition, she knew her gas prices to the penny, and she compared them with in Hilo, Seattle, Long Beach, Denver, and Dallas. She was rarely indecisive and a woman of action. Long before "just do it" was a phrase, she was already doing it. She was inclusive. After Mom died, we were all here, and we went around the room, and everybody had a word for Mom. Mine was inclusive. I just remember her inviting people into our lives that stayed in our lives, and Luis was one of them. I mean, she already had 2 teenagers and 2 younger children, and she invited a 3rd teenager who didn't speak English into our family for over a year and has been around for 40 years. She invited widows and divorcees and orphans, whether it was for the day or for their life. And they came to our table and they ate with us, and then they were included again and again and became part of our family. My mom encouraged us in what we were doing, not what she wanted us to do. Although when I was deciding where to go to college, she decided I needed to go to beauty school to work my way through college. It was one of the few times that she did not encourage me to do what I wanted to do, but she wanted to do. She was a good listener and would just call and listen to our woes, but did she share hers? No. Especially these last few months, you'd call and she would want to know what was going on in our lives. And we would talk, and she didn't say what was going on in hers. We kind of left that unsaid. She would tell us when she really felt bad, but if she wasn't feeling bad, we didn't talk about it. When we were little, she would put us in the car, my brother and I. My sisters weren't around yet. And we would either be packed up, ready to go deliver seed corn, or we might just be going into town. We didn't know. She would say, "Come on, we're going, get in the car." So we would get in the car, and we would go, and the first question we'd ask is, "Where are we going?" And she would say, "We're going crazy." And she said that time and time again through the years. But we always came home. We didn't go crazy. We always came home. And as we drove into the driveway, she would say, home again, jiggity jig." I can't tell you. The first time that came out of my mouth, I thought she was sitting in the car with me. And yet I still say it when I drive into the driveway. There's a lot of things that I say that I thought, oh my gosh, I would never say that, ever. It was my mother's saying. But home again, jiggity jig. I'm sure that's what Mom had to say when she arrived in heaven a couple of once ago. And with that, we will see her again. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Stouffer. I'm one of 21 kids who could call her Aunt Nan. She married into the Stouffer family, and the word that I would have for Nancy is legacy. And it's been a privilege in that family seeing a legacy passed on and the subsequent generations passing it on to their offspring, and Nan has passed it to her 4 children and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren, as you've obviously already seen tonight. But a memory of mine in particular was when my wife Jackie and our daughter was getting married, and Jean and Aunt Nan were just kids back then, but as were we. But the DJ did one of the dances. Okay, all the married couples get out on the floor, and everybody started dancing, and he said, okay, if you've been married 5 years or less, step off the dance floor. He did this every 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Anyway, finally, after getting up to 40 years, there's 3 couples left on the dance floor, and so he goes, let's do this one more time. 45 years, the same 3 couples stayed on there. The 3 couples were Jean and Nan, my mother and father, and another brother and sister of that same family. And so the legacy that my grandparents, Jean's parents, were married 67 years or 72 years, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the legacy that Nan was part of in passing that on, and the privilege it was to be able to call her Aunt Nan. And whenever I say that, I hear her laugh. And that's what I remember about my Aunt Nan.
I'm not due yet, but you got anything you want to say, Paul? No? We would offer you a chance. We'll bring you a microphone. If you have a memory, a comment that you'd like to share, just raise your hand. We'll bring you a microphone, and we'd love to hear from you. Anyone with a memory you'd like to share? Here we go. Here come. You what? Oh yeah, you do, because we're streaming this around the world. And Paul says they can hear you, but we know they can't.
I just have to talk. Oh, okay. I am Susan Anderegg. I'm married to Paul Stouffer, who is the cousin of these people here. This is a very minor memory because I didn't have the pleasure of knowing Nan that well. But the one thing I will always remember as an outlaw to the Stouffer clan was we were at one of the reunions, and Paul's mom, Mary Jo, was talking to Nan, and they were talking about the pleasures of being an outlaw and not being an actual Stouffer, and how overwhelming it can be. So I just wanted to say that because I thought it was so cute to see these 2 women talking about trying to fit into this group of people. So that's it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Oh, come on, if I did it.
I'm Ann Stouffer Gray, and I just wanted to say that I'm a nurse, and my Aunt Nan supported that decision 100%. That and my Aunt Eileen, we had a little club that nobody knew about.
Yeah.
Safe.
I'm a member of this church and also a nurse, and so kind of the consultant person sometimes, talked about COVID shots, answered questions, but I found out very early on to never bring up the flu shot again. I brought it up one time, and it was adamantly clear that she did not believe in the flu shot, and I never mentioned it again.
I'll always remember the smile on her face, just like the one in the picture.
Thank you.
I played, well, we did a lot of things with Nancy and Jean, and I remember going to see Kelly and Regis, and how they had the tickets, and they took us, my husband and me, and we had a good time. And then, the guests, I could tell you only one guest, and one guest that we had no idea who she was, Selena Gomez. Now everybody knows who she is. So we saw somebody wonderful, and we didn't even know it. But we were old, and she's young, or she was. Well, what? Yeah. Anyway, she loved to play bridge, and she would substitute in bridge with my bridge group, which I want to say, the Heavenly Bridge group is getting larger and larger. Virginia Langford, who used to go to this church too, and she's up there. I think she might be the head person, and I know that's. I hope somebody gave her some cards to take with her, because we enjoyed her dry sense of humor was just a kick. And her bravery the last few years was amazing.
Thank you. You want to come up? Come on.
Hello, everybody.
I turned it off. There, you got her.
You would think I'd be more technical. Wendy is my better half. I'm Boyd Fenton, and I couldn't have asked for a better mother-in-law. Nancy was just one of the most thoughtful and caring people I know. Whenever we would come to Arizona, I could count on my favorite foods and items being in the refrigerator. She knew what I liked, and I think she probably sent you to get them, but they were always there. And I could always count on the Marie Callender's lemon meringue pie. I could count on her famous chili and Snickers bars throughout the house. When they would come to Denver to visit, nobody wanted to go to the Red Lobster, but she knew I loved the Red Lobster, so she'd say, "We're going to take you to dinner, we're going to the Red Lobster." And it was only because I loved the chili biscuits at the Red Lobster. But anyway, she's just a really neat lady, thoughtful, considerate, classy, and she will be really, really missed. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Ramsey Goodale. Nancy was my grandmother. I can't think of anybody in my life who influenced my taste on snacks and of the like, but like Boyd said, she always had my favorite snacks, but I think it's because they were her favorite snacks as well. And I always just wanted to kind of emulate my grandmother in any way I could, because we were very different, but I loved her very much, and she loved me, and she would call me almost weekly, almost 3 times a week sometimes, just because she wanted to talk to me, she wanted to hear my voice. And I can't wait to hear hers again one day, and thank you guys all for being here.
just a minute.
I'm liking this food talk. And that brings me to every time my grandma Nancy would come to Alaska, or mostly Alaska when we lived there, she would arrive with a purse ham. Or that's how I referred to it, is she had a ham in her purse. Brought it all the way from Arizona. Couldn't buy one from Arizona. Brought it especially for us. But with her coming, that also meant times of Wheel of Fortune, Ellen, Jeopardy, just all these special times. And I was just very fortunate enough to be here for when I could.
Okay. It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine. That's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all of the glory. You were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know you're my hero? Everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle. For you are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed. I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know, I know the truth. Of course, I know the truth. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? Everything I wish I could be. I could fly higher than an eagle. For you are the wind beneath my wings. There are things in the obituary that you read that you probably said, what? I was introduced to my wife on a Friday night after a holiday basketball tournament game. A friend of mine, I lived in this little town up here and she lived in this big town down there. And a friend of mine dated a girl from down there. And I called her and I said, I want you to fix me up with Nancy. And she said, I don't fix people up, I'll introduce you. So after the game, I looked her up, and there was this lady who she introduced who wasn't who I thought she was. But it worked out okay. The next evening, one of the YW or YMCAs had just built an addition, and they were having the dedication, and it was a dance for the youth of the community. And we went to the dance, walked in the front door, and a friend of hers said, Nancy, you're here, let's dance. And away she went. She loved to dance, and so did I. She came back. I got the rest of the dances, and not only that, I won the door prize. And I won the grand prize. Yeah, we had some interesting experiences. I was at the University of Illinois, and it was Parents' Weekend, and her parents and my parents, and she came down for the weekend. And I had some crazy people who were roommates at college. I don't know if everybody ever had a crazy roommate at college or not. But the conversation was, wouldn't it be funny if somebody's announcement came out in the paper they were engaged, and it came out in the paper that I was engaged, and not to her. My folks were in a card club, and she went to card club, and one of the people said, "Oh, shotgun wedding?" And she became very irate. And my mother could be irate at times. And everybody insisted, and Nancy, go call him. He's got to call you. But she was about to call me when I called her, and we chatted for a significant amount of time on the phone. And it didn't break us up. Made me want to kill a couple of guys that I roomed with. So murder became part of the equation. We traveled quite a bit. This picture's from Cabo. We were there the year that she was diagnosed, and went in from that was basically the last time that we could spend time in the sun together. Some 8 years ago. And this year I lost a great deal. I lost my data bank. She knew every birthday of every person in the family, and she would tell me, we need 3 birthday cards this week. We need one for a 65-year-old, so get that specific, and we need to, So I lost my data bank. If you don't get a birthday card or Christmas card from me, don't worry about it. It's just I have no idea who you are. But she knew. She knew. I also lost my GPS override. GPS says here, and she said, no, we're going up there. We got to go that way. Most of the time, pretty right most of the time. Boyd used to get her. We'd be driving in Denver, and he'd have the GPS, and the lady's talking to you. And it would say, make a right turn, and he would just go straight on, and she would say, recalculating. And he would make another turn, and she'd recalculating. And he did it just to get to Nancy. Nancy taught Boyd how to play euchre, and was his partner for 10 years, 12 years. I'm trying to think how long we played euchre, whether we did it right off the bat. When you were newlyweds, you were busy not playing cards. We moved here so that we could play golf. We built a house on a golf course so that we could sneak on the course after hours and play a few holes. And it worked fine until you couldn't be out in the sun anymore. But she said, go play. You need to. She gave me what I needed all of the time, until such time I had to give to her what she needed. Grayson has been a great asset for me these last few months. You heard me mention a little phrase. When Nancy needed assistance, we would step over to assist, and she would say, just a minute. Just a minute. We knew when we were going to help her do something, she would say, just a minute, I'm not quite ready. And Grayson would say, yes, you are. No, she will not be missed. She'll be remembered. Oh, she won't be there, but she'll hear me when I want to talk to her. Yeah, she won't be missed. She'll just be remembered. And she shared time. They were talking about reunions. We used to do it every 5 years. And the year we did it here in 2000 in Bullhead City, we had our family reunion. It was my parents and their descendants and partners. And there were 83 dependents alive at that time or descendants, excuse me, and 83 made it to the reunion. And that was the year Dad turned 100. And I'm sure everybody's got some memories from rooms at the Harrah's where you could put, if you did it right, you could put 8 people in the room. Pull the mattress off, sleep on the box spring. You got kids, just throw them on the floor. We had a lot of kids at that time. There were 20 grandchildren and 46, I think, great-grandchildren that were coming to that reunion. So it was some great times. And family means a lot. We were fortunate enough to go to London to spend a week, a long week in a... You ever been to London and live in a flat? We went to London and lived in a flat with a couple, 2 children, and us. And the London flat is about the size of my bedroom. And she teased one of the boys. And she reached over at a restaurant and took a French fry off of his plate. And he looked her straight in the eye and then just slid under the table. We never saw him again that meal. She loved her grandchildren. She loved her, all of her nieces and nephews. Her concern 4 days before she passed was that her grandniece should have had her baby because it was a scheduled C-section. And nothing would appease her until we checked to see what the status was. And she had just had a boy. On the 11th, Veterans Day, I was getting ready to go out to the cemetery to be part of the armistice or the Veterans Day proceedings, and said, "I'll see you when I get back." And she said, "Probably not. I'll be gone." Well, she was wrong. But that morning she had woken up bright and early and said, "You got to call Dave Hambly because it's a birthday." And so I dialed and handed it to her. And she was right there. And she spent most of the rest of the day calling friends from the past to say goodbye. She knew you were her family. She loved this church. She loved the mission that we have. And I'm the lucky one. She loved me above all. She won't be remembered. She won't be missed. She will be remembered. Amen. We're going to have food and fellowship afterward. We got plenty of seating. There's seating in the fellowship hall, and there's seating in the north hall, and we hope you'll hang around and talk to the cousins. They have got some great stories, and you get to see. Oh, I forgot to do this. 4 years ago, this week, we got what we thought was the greatest Christmas present we'd ever gotten. And Desi's back there somewhere. Here he is. Hi, Des. Would you ever fit in that again? I don't think so. Some of you have heard me mention Desi once in a while. Desi is real. I want to thank you all for coming, for wearing blue, for sharing Nancy with me, and loving as she has loved. Go in peace, a peace that passes all understanding, the peace of realizing that smile is eternal. She will not be missed. She'll be remembered. We're going to close with the Hymn of Promise, which is 707. In the mulberry is a flower, in the street an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, but her flies will soon be free. Oh, at cold of winter, there's a spring that waits to be. until it's season, something God alone can see. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, what it holds a mystery. Until it's season, something God alone can see. And our end is our beginning, in our time infinity. In our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. In our death a resurrection, at the last a victory. Unrevealed until its season, I think God alone can see. Thank you.